Here is a number that should not exist. 52%. One airline controls more than half of every seat, every route out of the Pacific Northwest's biggest airport. And it's not Delta, it's not United, it's not American, it's Alaska. And they've held that number through a decade of the most aggressive hub invasion in modern American aviation. Because in 2014, Delta Airlines, the most profitable airline on Earth, decided Seattle was going to be theirs. They declared it a hub. They launched routes to Tokyo, Seoul, Shanghai, Amsterdam, Paris, London. They called themselves Seattle's global carrier. They poured hundreds of millions of dollars into gates, lounges, and premium aircraft. For 10 years, they tried to crack that 52% wall. They never did. And then, Alaska did something nobody saw coming. In September 2024, they spent $1.9 billion to buy Hawaiian Airlines. And in one move, they didn't just defend their home. They took the only weapon Delta ever had against them and pointed it right back. This is the story of one of the greatest hub battles in American aviation and why it's about to be decided. To understand why 52% matters, you need to understand what Alaska actually is to Seattle, not as a business, as a piece of the city itself. It starts in 1932. Linneus Mac McGee arrives in Anchorage with a single 3-seat Stinson airplane. He flies cargo and passengers to remote communities with no other way in or out. No schedules, no terminals, just a pilot, a propeller, and the wilderness. That operation merges with a competitor, grows through World War II, and in 1944 gets its final name, Alaska Airlines. For years, the airline is legally barred from flying south to the continental US. They fight it. In the early 1950s, they finally win the right to fly from Anchorage to Seattle. That one route changes everything. Seattle becomes the launch pad. From there, Alaska builds outward. California, New York, Mexico, all radiating from Seattle-Tacoma International. By 1985, they officially designated their primary hub. Headquarters moves to SeaTac, 10 minutes from the terminals. And then they don't just build a hub, they become the city's airline. Alaska is the official carrier of the Seahawks, the Mariners, and the Sounders. Most Seattleites carry an Alaska credit card. The mileage plan is rated the best traditional loyalty program in the industry for 11 straight years. Parents fly Alaska, kids fly Alaska. That's not brand loyalty, that's a civic institution. And in 2014, Delta walked directly into it.
For most of Alaska's history, nobody seriously challenged them in Seattle. Other airlines flew there, but nobody came for the hub. Then, Delta merged with Northwest Airlines in 2008 and suddenly had a West Coast problem. They had fortress hubs in Atlanta, Detroit, Minneapolis, and New York. But the Pacific? Almost nothing. And they needed a gateway, somewhere to funnel Asia-Pacific business traffic as demand for trans-Pacific routes exploded. Seattle was perfect, geographically closer to Tokyo and Seoul than LA or San Francisco. Home to Amazon, Microsoft, Boeing, exactly the high-yield corporate traveler Delta wanted. And the international routes? Massively underserved. In 2014, Delta went all in. They declared Seattle a full hub and added 18 new routes in a single year. Tokyo, Seoul, Hong Kong, Shanghai, Amsterdam, Paris, London. Delta VP Mike Madero said it publicly, "We are making Seattle our West Coast hub to serve the Pacific." But here's what made Delta's strategy brilliant. They didn't try to beat Alaska at domestic flying. 50 years of loyalty made that impossible. Instead, they targeted the one thing Alaska literally could not offer. Alaska flew Boeing 737s, every single one. No wide bodies, no trans-Pacific authority. If you needed to fly Seattle to Tokyo lie flat, the kind a Microsoft executive puts on an expense account, Alaska had nothing. You flew Delta by default.
That was the weapon. Alaska's codeshare revenue from Delta, they had been partners since 2004, collapsed from $190 million to $65 million in just 2 years as Delta competed on every shared route. By May 2017, the partnership was dead. By 2024, Delta had grown from roughly 6% of SEA's market to 24%, a quadrupling in someone else's fortress. Most airlines would be panicking. Alaska went and bought an airline. For a decade, Alaska had one answer when the premium international traveler asked, "Can you fly me to Tokyo?" No. That was Delta's entire Seattle strategy. Own the international segment. Win the premium passenger, the highest-yielding customer in aviation. Let Alaska keep the domestic. In December 2023, Alaska announced it was acquiring Hawaiian Airlines for $1.9 billion, closed September 2024. And what they actually bought was not just a brand or a Hawaii network, it was the weapon itself. Hawaiian's fleet transformed Alaska overnight. 24 Airbus A330-200 wide bodies and 12 Boeing 787-9 Dreamliners, the same aircraft Delta and United fly on their flagship international routes. Plus, decades of trans-Pacific operating expertise and route authority, covering Japan, South Korea, Australia, New Zealand, and Tahiti. Alaska immediately unveiled Alaska Accelerate, a 3-year plan targeting $1 billion in incremental pre-tax profit by 2027, $10 earnings per share, double-digit margins. The centerpiece, turning Seattle into a true global gateway. The routes followed fast.
May 12, 2025, Seattle to Tokyo Narita. Daily, year-round. Operated on Hawaiian's A330-200, upgraded to Alaska's 787-9 from January 2026. September 12, 2025, Seattle to Seoul Incheon, 5 times weekly, 787-9. April 28, 2026, Seattle to Rome. The first route ever flown on Alaska-branded 787-9 aircraft. The first time in 90 years that an Alaska boarding pass said wide-body. May 21, 2026, Seattle to London Heathrow. Daily, year-round. London is Seattle's single busiest intercontinental market. Until now, every passenger flew Delta or connected elsewhere. May 28, 2026, Seattle to Reykjavik. Seasonal on the Boeing 737 MAX 8 in partnership with Icelandair. Target: 12 intercontinental destinations from Seattle by 2030. And when Alaska first announced Tokyo and Seoul in December 2024, the stock jumped 13% in a single day. The market understood immediately what this meant. The gap Delta had exploited for 10 years closed. Delta is not going quietly, and you should know that. The moment Alaska announced Rome, Delta announced Rome too, plus Barcelona, both launching May 2026. Alaska's Rome went April 28th, Delta's Rome went May 6th, 8 days later. Aviation Week published it plainly. Delta's European moves came in direct response to Alaska Airlines' plans. That 8-day gap tells you everything about who is setting the agenda now. Beyond routes, Delta opened a brand new 24,000 square foot Delta One lounge and renovated Sky Club at SEA in 2025, the most premium lounge experience at the airport, with 149 indoor seats plus a 72-seat terrace with views to Mount Rainier. They locked in a long-term lease on 18 preferential gates. They upgraded Pacific routes to the Airbus A350-900, their best widebody, on Tokyo, Seoul, and Taipei, and opened a dedicated A350 crew base in Seattle. With Rome and Barcelona flying, Delta now serves 13 international non-stop destinations from SEA. None of this is small. Delta's investment in Seattle is real. But here's the number that matters. Delta went from 6% to 24% over a decade. Alaska held 52% the entire time. The wall never cracked, not once. And now, for the first time, Delta is the one reacting. Let's talk about where this actually stands. Alaska Air Group controls 52% of all passengers at Seattle-Tacoma. Delta has 24%. Seattle hit an all-time record in 2025. 52.72 million passengers, with international traffic up 7.9% year-over-year. The airport is growing. Alaska controls more than half of it. In Q2 2025, SEA handled 8.5 million one-way seats, another record. Alaska holds 49% on its own. Add Hawaiian, it's 51%. Add the broader One World Alliance partners, it approaches 55%.
Here's the full picture. Delta's Seattle strategy was never about out-domesticating Alaska. That was always impossible. Their strategy was more precise. Find the one gap, the one thing Alaska couldn't do. Build a premium international product so far beyond anything Alaska could offer that the highest value passengers had no choice but to fly Delta. For a decade, that worked. Delta went from 6% to 24%. Real investment, a real claim to being Seattle's global carrier, because Alaska had no international product to compete with. That era ended September 18, 2024. For $1.9 billion, Alaska bought what took Delta 10 years to build from scratch: a wide-body fleet, Trans-Pacific Authority, Pacific operating expertise, and then they deployed it, not cautiously, route by route, city by city, starting with Tokyo and ending with London daily, year-round, with Rome launching 8 days before Delta's own Rome. 8 days. For 10 years, Delta set the agenda in Seattle. They announced first, Alaska reacted. Now it's reversed. Alaska announces Rome, Delta scrambles. Alaska goes to London, Delta watches. The airline that launches first, that forces the other to react, that's who controls a market. Delta is still here. Their A350s are serious. Their lounges are real. This rivalry doesn't end tomorrow. But the airline setting the agenda right now? That's Alaska. This is not a story about a small carrier punching above its weight. This is the story of an airline that spent 90 years building the deepest routes of any carrier in the Pacific Northwest, and then, at the right moment, spent $1.9 billion to become untouchable. Seattle was always Alaska's. The rest of the world is just finding out.